Chris Gayle's shenanigans in the Big Bash League have once again brought into sharp focus the inherent sexism in sports. Often labelled as a distant cousin of racism, sexism haunts women in every sphere of sport. It's impossible for us to chronicle even the known incidents, but here are a few to show you the extent of it. There have been multiple instances of sexism in sport, but none darker than the Lisa Olson incident, also known as the New England Patriot incident of 1991. A sports journalist by profession, Lisa was interviewing a player in the team's locker room. Several players taunted her by walking naked, also making vulgar comments and gestures.
Sexual harassment is designed to humiliate me, and it was planned.
Olson described the experience as mind rape and also sued the New England Patriots for sexual harassment. The English Football Association caused quite an uproar with a sexist tweet made against the women's national team recently. Once the women's team was done winning the 2015 World Cup bronze, the FA tweeted the Lionesses can now go back to being wives, partners and daughters. The tweet was widely criticized. Former Chelsea physio Eva Carneiro earned a unique distinction in 2015 as the only woman appointed in that role at an EPL club. But the former Blues doctor had to suffer sexist abuse from fans during a match. Eva came down hard on the sexist nature of her job, saying female doctors are hypersexualized.
But I believe woman's best place is in the kitchen and on the back.
The infamous Tyson Fury interview where the British boxer was quoted saying a woman's best place is in the kitchen. Fury also made a series of various sexist comments about British heptathlete Jessica Ennis-Hill. The list is literally endless. Sports Bureau, India Today. This just shows that whether you're a sports reporter, an athlete yourself, or a professional in the testosterone-dominated sports world, females in all roles face this. But before I go on and bring in our guests, Anjali and Neeru, let me also quote what Gayle said to a female reporter before a Caribbean Premier League match. He was asked by the reporter, how does the pitch feel so far in terms of the training and his weather? And his response was, Neeru, well, I haven't touched yours yet, so I don't know how. If that drew shocking reactions, he's now facing the ire, thankfully. Are you shocked at all with what Gayle tried to pull off in this interview and how his apology was so forced?
No, of course it's shocking because, knowing what a free-spirited and the kind of temperament that the West Indian cricketers have, or even Chris Gayle has, it doesn't excuse him, or it doesn't make his his behavior any smaller or any lesser. It is shocking every time a person goes on to work on, a woman is equally vulnerable, be it in her workplace, be it a journalist, or be it in any other profession. And that reporter was doing a particular job, going by the brief that she was given. And this was completely uncalled for and completely unexpected. And it's on air. It's the public is watching. How discomforting and how embarrassing can this be? This is really, really uncalled for. Totally.
Right. Anjali, can you share for us, from your extensive experience of covering cricket all around the world, any such episodes that come to your mind?
Shivani, there have been numerous instances. As you said, if you start recounting the incidents, the list is literally endless. So yeah, there have been absolutely lots and lots of incidents. It's so institutionalized that it's really, I think that I sense that there isn't even any self-awareness in sort of behavior that could be considered sexist. Mm-hmm. And as far as Chris Gayle goes, he was obviously bringing what the sort of nightclub culture to the workplace, and I think there's a huge issue with that because on his own time and the reporter's own time, if he chooses to ask her out for a drink, that's entirely between the two of them. That's in a personal space. That's their personal matter. I think what the issue is how publicly it was done and how there was completely an unequal power dynamic at play, because he's a player, he's a cricketer, and she's a journalist. She's doing her job. She's there to ask him questions, and he's obviously turning this whole, he's taking he's sort of using the interview and completely out of context, trying to ask her out and proposition her. And I think that's really, really problematic.
Of course, let's remember, this was her workplace. She's doing a job. So this is equivalent to workplace harassment. In fact, I feel we are put in a unique situation where we have to make light of such instances and advances or risk being antagonized, isn't it? I've had players and officials comment on my clothes and my looks and show more than usual surprise on the fact that a woman is covering sport. Niru, have you also had to work harder to get an assignment because you're a woman and somehow not considered fit for it?
Well, to be honest, no, I haven't. I won't play that victim card because I've not had that issue. But to say that I haven't heard of such things happening with my other colleagues or people that I know also in the profession, there have been instances. Some quite recent, some many years ago. But there is never a surety or a guarantee that it won't happen ever, or it won't happen to anybody else, if not me, somebody else. So you are vulnerable, like Anjali also said. You remain quite vulnerable, and it's really unfair because this is as much of a workplace for a woman as much as it is for a man. So why should she be subjected to this?
Right. Boria Majumdar is also joining us. Boria, the response to Gayle's incident has been mixed too. Some said, he wasn't trying to hurt anyone. That was his defense himself too. But thankfully, more and more journalists, and not just women, are speaking out about how this happens ever so often. In press boxes, media rooms, foreign tours, where women already form a very low number.
Yeah, and I'm glad people are speaking out because I think this is ridiculous. I think people have gotten away with such stupidity for far too long. Chris Gayle being just one of a kind, and there are many such. I'm sure people from around the world will speak out. So this is not, it's an equal place. Women cannot be discriminated against and cannot be the subject of harassment of any shape or form. I was hearing you and Anjali talk about and Niru talk about. This is unfortunate. That is an unfortunate reality of our society. But if you actually think the other side, Shivani, being a man, I can tell you, we also oftentimes feel that players give special access to women. Players give special preference to women. Again,
is that
from
really
a very
true?
perverse angle.
Boria, I hear men say this over and over again, but I really don't know whether that's any more true for a woman than it is for a man. And it doesn't justify anything.
No,
Shivani, if I could just
I have instances in my own career.
No, but I know men who get special treatment as well. So how is that any different?
I'm not defending either way. That's about access, Shivan. By the way, I'm not saying this. I've seen both ways.
Like to,
even if my point is simple. If women get special access, that's wrong. If women are discriminated against, that's wrong. Because either way, it's an equal workplace for both sexes.
I think Anjali and Niru both want to react to that. Anjali, you go first.
Shivani, I was just trying to say that I think, each time I've heard a lot of comments around me being made by male colleagues about how do you think she got that interview with this player? Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. That kind of stuff. And there are so many comments that, again, like I said, there's a complete lack of self-awareness, the way that they are thrown around. I don't think a lot of men even realize how sexist they're being. I've had an incident which I also wrote about a couple of years ago, where a male journalist talking to a group of journalists, and I was present there in front of me, thought nothing of saying, each time I have, if I have a really tough question that I have to ask a cricketer, I just stand behind a pretty female reporter, and then the cricketer gets distracted by her pretty face, and then I get away with asking my tough question. And the guy who was recounting this who's expressing this opinion thought nothing of saying it in front of a female colleague. Right. So I don't think he even realized that I'm saying this in front of another female reporter. So there are comments like this that constantly get sort of thrown around.
Yeah, in fact, the incidents of Neroli Meadows as well, who spoke out. Yeah. You know, there was an instance when she went out with a bunch of reporters, men included, with Shane Warne, but photographers cut them out and only showed her and Shane Warne as if she's the only woman journalist who's going out with a cricketer. It's not unheard of, but we are made to look like we get something because we are just women. But Neeru, final comments to you. How does one combat this?
No, well, it is about, it's about propriety, it's about the mindset. The fact is that there are, in fact, now there are more women reporters in sports than there used to be earlier. And the fact is that they are out there to do a particular job. They have a brief that they have to follow, and it's as professional as any other person would be. So why even try to act smart?
Yeah.
There is no reason to act smart.
All right,
Like
and you can't get away with it is the kind of message that this incident shows. Boria, final comments from you as well.
See, very honestly, Shivani, I think this is a non-starter. For me, it's an equal society. As I said, no preferential treatment, no discriminatory treatment should be the way forward. If any cricketer or any journalist, woman, man included, does this, he or she should be penalized, and not a $10,000 stupid fine. That doesn't matter to Chris Gayle. A serious enough punishment like ban from the Big Bash. That $10,000 fine is a slur on both journalists, men and women, and to the profession.
But at least somebody is doing something. He's gotten away with it for far too long. Anjali, I only have 10 seconds. Would you like to add something?
Yeah, I just want to say, actually, I understand. I mean, while this incident itself is really unpleasant, I'm actually glad that we're discussing sexism in cricket. I think it's a really important discussion to have, and sexism in sport. So in a way, this acts as a springboard where we have this conversation more openly, and we think that we're more self-aware. We decide we, monitor our attitude and our behavior. I think if that's what this results in, and then it's a really good conversation to be having. So while the incident is not positive, it may just lead to a positive outcome.
Absolutely, and I also spoke to Kadamri Murali, who's been Hindustan Times sports editor, and she said almost the same thing. She said, if you wanted to ask her out, do it on your own time. Do not do it on TV when she's working. That is her workplace. That is not the kind of behavior that should be allowed. We'll end it on that note. Neeru Bhatia, Boria Majumdar and Anjali Doshi, thanks a lot for joining us, and we just hope that this triggers a wave of debate, not just in Australia, in the Caribbean, but also here in India, and there are not too many nudges and winks going on behind female reporters' backs. We leave you with that thought. Thanks a lot for watching.